All good. And that's us live, Raheen. I'm just checking. The beginning of every video that we do is always me checking if we're live and then finding out that we've been live for about a minute. So apologies to everyone watching to always have to go through that. Welcome, Raheen Fatima. Lovely to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing all well, and I have been there because I used to be the biggest live stream person. I don't do that anymore because I have had some issues in the past. But I know how it feels. Legit, you've got to check, and then you also have to share out if you want to share out to other places. So it takes an effort.
Yeah, it does. There's lots of moving parts and things like that. I think a lot of people learn to deal with the live stream thing during the pandemic. No, it was seemed to be everyone learning very quickly about green screens and stream keys and things like that. But were you streaming before the pandemic when you were doing your interviews?
No, I started doing recorded interviews in January. That was January of 2020. So it was let's just say it was like relatively new. I was doing it in 2020. I just check it in my mind, like 2020, yeah. Right? And then I actually started live streaming from StreamYard. It was about April, May, somewhere around that. So we were pretty tops on the pandemic, and my school was shut down. So that was literally when I was like, oh, now I can do whatever I want, because that's when you have the most time on your hands.
Well, this is leading perfectly to what I want to ask you, because every time I kind of check in and see what you're up to, it seems like the list grows. And so every time, I'm aware that I've put the introduction here and I've listed the things that I think you're doing, but I know there's going to be at least one or two more that I don't know about. So let's try and put this in a nutshell for the people who don't know you. If you haven't come across you before, can you just give us just a little bit of your background? So, where you're from, how old you are, and then, drum roll, the list of things that you're actually doing right now.
Don't say that. Okay, so my name is Raheen Fatima. I am 14. I move around the country, but let's just say I'm from Pakistan. And so I'm a stand-up comedian. Oh, sorry, forgot the drum roll. Okay, now I am a stand-up comedian, a writer, and aspiring entrepreneur, a teacher, an interviewer, a peace and a children's rights activist. And very recently, like literally the past weekend, I am also a TEDx speaker. And the goal of my life is to empower everybody around me, regardless of their race, their religion, their caste, or their creed. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Well, okay. So where do we start with that? Because this podcast is generally around, it's around education, but it's around the future of education. It's also around, we focus a lot on what education might need to do to help people like yourself, future generations who are coming later into the workforce to kind of be ready for this crazy world that's in front of us, And so that's the kind of general idea. But I know that you, for example, are involved as an ambassador, for the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So what does that work involve? Because this is quite a big topic in education, right? Around education for sustainable development. So what do you do around this?
Okay, so basically, I came across the Sustainable Development Goals. It was mesmerizing. It was one mesmerizing day because I had heard of the SDG. What were they? I just found out. And this is back in 2019 that I did. And so because I had already started networking and I already was doing quite some work, so I did have connections that were working on the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of them, Sir Amar Jaffrey, just had to be the founder of the Sustainable Development Goals Academy, the SDG Academy of Pakistan. So I went to meet him in his office And well, he talked to me and because see, I think I have a lot of research to do. I do not remember most of the things like the statistics, but I understand why it is important.
Mhm.
And to him, that was important. And he saw the light in me. And it was New Year's Eve. So it was literally 30 minutes before midnight that he was like, you're going to be our SDG youth ambassador to spread out the word amongst young people. And so I was. And then I just started talking more about different SDGs, doing webinars, sessions, people that are focusing on the SDGs. I even interviewed somebody that helped the UN really structure the SDGs, which is amazing, really. And my job is to do that amongst the youth. So I do have SDGs for youth in different platforms, even group chats that I admin. So I can just see what is going on and what information about sustainability and these goals is getting to these young children.
Because it's very complex, isn't it? I mean, I understand what you're saying about it's really just about internalizing the message of the SDGs, isn't it? It's not, there are people behind the scenes working on metrics and how to measure progress towards them, but even just trying to understand what they hope to achieve is actually, difficult enough, I would think, because they're so interconnected. It's difficult to say this action is to meet SDG 4 or 11 or whatever, because they tend to hit a number on different levels. So in terms of what would you say, if you could, I mean, the work that you're doing, for example, in your speaking, in your work around the SDGs, I mean, which goals do you find yourself drawn most towards? I mean, is there any particular areas you find yourself focusing on more than others?
Yeah, definitely. The goals that are on environments, about climate change, reduce inequalities, because that is a very big focus for me. And honestly, quality education. And I feel like the goal that holds it all together, the glue to all of it, is goal 17, right? Partnerships and collaborations to achieve these goals. And I feel like without partnerships and collaboration or co-creation, these simply just cannot be achieved. So what I want to do is to interview more and more people, to know them better in order to either connect with them myself or to connect them with other people so that they can achieve a goal for themselves, which is definitely going to be impacting those that are around them. Well, fingers crossed, in a positive way. So I feel like my work is a lot about collaborating and co-creating. And so I also speak a lot about it. So that's probably my favorite one, SDG 17.
That's interesting, because it makes perfect sense what you say. And it's, about bringing more people into the journey. I think most people by now have heard of them in professional circles anyway. But there's a lot of people that are not really, there are so many businesses, for example, that have not built them into their strategy. So many schools that have not built them into their curriculum or their approach. So they're still quite abstract to a lot of people. So it's great that you're thinking about partnerships to at least raise awareness, right? And also that you mentioned addressing inequality, which to me, that seems like very much at the root of almost all of it as well. The inequalities are just so stark. In terms of, so the last time we talked, I mean, when you interviewed me, I didn't get a chance to ask you much about your education. I kept trying to ask you questions, and and you were asking me instead. So now it's my turn. The last time we spoke, and we mentioned this just before coming on, I noticed that your accent has gotten much more North American, and you've said that you're actually, because you're studying in a new school. So what's going on with you? Where are you studying? As much as you can say. Why did you study there, and what is it that you're getting from this actual experience just now?
Amazing. Yes, my accent has changed. And I mean, I notice it every time that somebody tells me that it has. because I do see past interviews and I do be like, ooh, it has changed. That is because of the environment I put myself in, because I interview a lot of people and I talk to a lot of people, but I feel like more changes happen because I go to a North American school, well, an American high school, let's just say that. So I go to the Socratic experience. It is a very, very amazing school. It's founded by Michael Strong.
Socratic, did you say? Socratic experience.
That's Socratic experience. I know the first time I heard it, I'm like, ooh, this is interesting, because I'd never heard something like that before.
Mm-hmm.
So basically how I was connecting to all people from the educational side of things on LinkedIn, I came across a fact that everybody influential that I'm connecting with in education had a connection named Michael Strong. I connected with him. I started talking to him and I realized, ooh, so they have created this amazing school, he and his team, the Socratic experience. I learned more, and it's basically a school that's based off of Socratic dialogue and understanding many things, even physics and chemistry, to history and English through this dialogue, and understanding philosophy, politics, and economy in fun ways. And it's literally high schoolers, and in some subjects, even middle schoolers that are sitting down and talking about socialism and democracies, and a way of future governance. I mean, it's very cool. So it's because of that my actions changed, and I have been in the school since end of September. So I wouldn't say I've had a lot of time, but I've seen a shift towards how I think now, and I have many people that are like me that want to talk, and I do not feel any way looked down upon for doing all the work, and most importantly, because all of us, we are young high schoolers in a room that have the same language that we speak and very similar ideas, or sometimes not similar ideas, and we can talk it out.
Right.
So yeah, I'm in love with my school. For the first time, I can say I love school.
Well, that is music to my ears, because the last time we talked, you were in an environment where you found yourself gravitating towards people who were perhaps a bit older, because, as you were then 13, and I'm sure a million people have told you, a very untypical 13-year-old, out there in the world doing all this stuff. It's very difficult sometimes to feel part of a social circle when you're standing out like that, right? And doing all this different stuff. And the last time we talked, you said you found yourself having older friends and having conversations with people who are older with you more. But now it sounds like you've kind of found your tribe, and you're in an environment that nurtures who you are. And I would love to know more about this, because you've mentioned some things that intrigue me. So when I think Socratic, I think about exactly what you mentioned. I mean, the old Socratic methods were, there was no such thing as kind of subjects, things were interlinked. There wasn't a silo, so things like, maths and geometry and reason and logic and philosophy and all of these things they all came together. So I wonder if that's part of the methodology in this school. And also I'm intrigued to know how they approach dialogue, in terms of helping you develop your voice and your critical thinking, so to what extent are they structuring things for you, and to what extent are you allowed to or encouraged to direct your own course of inquiry, research, and learning? So what's happening in the school that's caused you to feel so at home, which I'm glad to hear?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do fit in always with a older group that's always been with me. But here I am connecting with other 14-year-olds, 15, we're in the same class, so 16-year-olds as well. But I feel like it's amazing that I'm able to feel part of a group if after a very long time, because since I've started working and really, really standing out, I feel like, I haven't felt part like that with somebody my age. So here we have two main classes: STEM, that is Yeah, science, technology, engineering, and math.
So that's one group. They approach it as a group, STEM together.
No, we are divided in two groups that on different timings take two classes. One is STEM,
yeah,
and one is humanities. So humanities, I think, to my understanding, pretty much covers our English, history, and a big chunk of our Socratic practice. And our STEM also covers coding, and very techy stuff that I'm still just trying to get a hold of because it's very new to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two. And then we also have electives or extra classes that we can take on Wednesdays, like I did yesterday. And that is, we have a choice to either take music, technology, and or what is it called? Sorry, PPE. So I was just trying to think out the full form because we're so used to calling it PPE, but it is philosophy. It is politics, philosophy, and economy.
Oh, are you
so
taking
I
that
take
one?
PPE. Yeah, I'm taking that one.
I knew it. Of course you
Yeah,
would.
so I'm taking that one.
That's amazing. So this is pretty interesting because you know, for me personally, as an educator, the schools or institutions or organizations I'm drawn to are the ones which do not silo subjects. You know, it's crazy to me that you have young people, say, working on carpentry or woodwork without maths, because those two coexist. You know, it's like, you know, subjects in the real world they don't exist like that. That you put this artificial divide in schools. And so if I understand, I mean, you've still kind of got subjects, but they're grouped more transversally. So you've got STEM together. So you're doing your things related to science, technology, engineering, maths, and so including coding and technology and stuff together. And then you've got the humanities side, which seems like a really great step, actually, away from a traditional system. I'm quite intrigued by this. And I want to pick up on something you said. You said you're in a class with people like 14, 15, 16. So are you kind of grouped by, what would you call it, maturity rather than age? No.
So we're not grouped by age. We're grouped as well, we're Pod B, but it is high school. So because see, I'm a freshman, and my friend that I mentioned earlier, T, he is a senior. So we are like literally 3 years apart. So freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, basically 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders are all together. So there is just like, okay, I'm in high school. Get it? So we're not divided on basis of, okay, so these are the freshmen and these are the sophomores and then these are seniors and juniors.
I like it. So I mean, you must get a lot of do they try to kind of put you together? So there's a lot of peer teaching going on, a lot of working together.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like I do have a lot of trouble readings sometimes because in the material that we're reading for humanities classes, it's difficult. It's like difficult material. And we were reading George Orwell's Language and Politics earlier. I was reading that earlier today, literally before this. And so I literally just texted one of my classmates. I was like, listen, you know how I am because of reading, because I like zone out the moment I do not understand a word, and then it's very difficult for me. So I'm like, yo, come on, let's help each other. Because I give him a crazy perspective and he gives him like a lot of a different perspective. He's a senior, I'm a freshman. So again, his understanding of things are a little different. And we were reading together. So I feel like the thing is that if I don't understand anything, I could go to my older classmates that are on perhaps a different level of learning, but we all are reading the same material. So that I think is what's beautiful.
And what about, how are you, to use the word assessment? I mean, I don't know exactly how that works, or if that's even the word you would use in there. How does that work?
Honestly, I barely know how that works because in STEM we've had a quiz, and there is, yes, we discuss something, we understand something, and we even have choices in a lot of topics as to, do you want to like go and study from a textbook, the same thing? Do you want to go watch a video, or you want to watch a video and then discuss, or read an article and then discuss? There's always like choices that you have in the way that you want to learn, because everyone again has a little different preference. And then you study it for a day or two and discuss that, and then you have a quiz. And yeah, it was an anatomy of the eye quiz, so like we did have to label parts, so there's nothing different they can do about it.
Okay, right. So this is, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely going to dig more into this, because this is I have a little bias, a little kind of love for the classics and the classic style of education, even though it's, because there's a lot we can learn from how things were done then, and even I remember teaching a class with public speaking skills, and I looked a lot to people like Demosthenes, who existed around the same time, and the techniques that they had for rhetoric and persuasion and things like that, that there's so much to draw on to bring back into modern education as well, that we can learn, that kind of got forgotten a little bit. So I'm quite interested by this. What I'd like to ask you is, you're already out in the world. This is not, I'm very aware of this when I'm talking to you about preparing for the future, because, when we talk about this with school and the real world, it shouldn't be like that, that it shouldn't be that you're protected from the actual reality of the world in school, and then suddenly it's like, okay, off you go, good luck, and hope we've prepared you, but probably not. Yeah. And but you're already out there, so you already know, you're going to stand on the stage and do a TEDx talk, I mean, you already know what all these things are like. So what is it you think that in your education now, what do you think you're getting from this that's helping to prepare you to become the person you want to be, to achieve the things you want to achieve? And why was that missing from where you were before?
Yeah. I feel like what's beautiful is, yes, I am a different perspective in class, because anytime, like, even before this, I remember like I was not understanding how molecules and atoms were working. And in class, this is 7th grade, so I was not in the school. And I went out, I reached a person that was a PhD in molecular sciences, and I interviewed her. And I asked her 7th grade level questions. So for her, it was pretty easy. But, again, I was able to get a true expert perspective, and she was able to explain to me, and I got, not only did I get an A in class, but I really understood the topic. So here, the difference is, their questions were not really welcomed, though it's always part of this class rules that are written down. They're not welcome. So let's just be honest about that. And there's always favorites in class. Like, okay, so these are the active people in class. These are the people that are the backbencher people. They're not to be even talked to. And the very, let's just say, very standardized way of doing things. We are reading from a textbook. This is the subject. You need to learn this. There's no arguing that. Here in the school that I am in now, questions are actually welcomed. Like, I ask all sorts of questions. And before leaving class, one of my classmates, Nathan, asks a question to the teacher every day about how she's doing. How's her son doing? Or how have things been? So like, weird questions are even welcomed. No favorites. So all of us are treated equally. Sometimes we're called upon, but we are never like really, so to say, with the intention of embarrassing the student.
Like put on the spot. Yeah,
not like that ever. And I feel like what's most important is that you can choose what way you want to learn. And you're free to do your own research. Like we were learning about something in science class. I cannot recall what it was. And I was I refer to one of my interviews. And so just the thing is something that you've done in the past, or if you have a different perspective on it, that's always welcomed.
Yeah.
And you can talk about it. So there's definitely different things that are way better, but I feel like it's preparing me in a way because my assignments can be linked to what I'm already doing. Like one of my interviews was actually my assignment that was turned in.
Brilliant.
And that's literally preparing me for college. So because I have my high school credits and requirements that I've got to fulfill. So just the thing is, I can choose how to do my work and how to convey my thoughts about a certain topic or how to research. So I can choose that. The other way, it's just one size fits all. If I don't fit in, and if I'm not that sort of a learner, then I'm so sorry, but I'm probably never going to be good at school.
So you're able to, I mean, they're giving you these kind of broad goals, like this is kind of what we need in a general way of speaking for you to get these things, to get into college and whatever. But they stop there, and you're then free to bring in things from your own life.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, you're able to bring in your interviews, your activism work, I guess, reflections from that.
Yeah. My TEDx is also my project. You know that?
Yeah. So, oh, really? Well, why not? I mean, yeah, it's amazing. But how are you using it? How are you using that as a project? Is it for humanities, I would guess?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a genius. So
I'm glad you haven't lost your sarcasm.
So what happened is that we were talking and we were like, okay, so we got to do a project about, and it has to be related to something we've already read. I was pretty new in class, so I hadn't read all of the things. But what happened is that we read something about enlightenment. And I wanted to write about that. And so we had to do two things. So we had to convey our idea about enlightenment in writing, song, poem, video, and a couple other options. We had to do two of them. I was like, writing, okay, and because I was scheduled for my TED Talk back then. So I was like, why not my TED Talk? Now I wrote up on enlightenment, and I realized how this could be so beneficial with my TED Talk as well, because enlightenment is really emerging from knowledge or emerging from that childhood. Now, emerging from that childhood is really defined by finding your true calling and working on it. And my TED Talk is all about life doesn't come with guarantees. Find your true passion and start working on it young. So both of them are very, very beautifully connected. So I did the write-up on the connection, and I then also gave my TED Talk. And because the recording's not released for another 3 weeks, we're still waiting on it. But as soon as it is, my assignment will officially be turned in.
Great. So that's going to come out when? Another week yet, or?
3 weeks.
Oh, it's 3 weeks. When did you do it?
I did it on last Saturday. So I did on the 6th of November.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the picture, but I wasn't sure how long ago that was. So 3 weeks. Brilliant. Well, so you'll post it on LinkedIn, I take it.
Yeah, I did.
Great. Looking forward to seeing that. There's something now. It's pretty clear to see all these connections. And by the way, I'm so happy to see you thriving, because I was obviously, I had the feeling last time we talked, it's like that you were being underserved by your environment a little bit.
Yeah, back then I was looking for something like this, so I was on a hunt the last time I talked to you. Yeah,
and when I look back on it now, I should have known that nothing's going to hold you back for long. Of course, you're going to change your environment, right? But there's something you mentioned that I'd like to come back to that we've not covered. You mentioned that you were an entrepreneur. I've not heard you using that word about yourself before. So what's going on there?
I have been using that word since 2019.
Since
been a long time. So yeah, I said an aspiring entrepreneur because I have been working on some things in the past. But now I do have a project that I'm working on, which I'm not only working on for myself, but it's also my personal project. And I have a mentor for that. That's my school mentor. And he is Michael Strong. So I'm working on it, and you will get to see that pretty soon, probably.
Right. Okay. So, and is this have, I mean, obviously you don't want to give away details right now, but does it have a real world sort of application? So this is not like a
It's
project within
based,
the school, it's out there.
yeah, it's no, it's out there. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be out there.
Mhm.
No, I started it before I also decided to take it on as a school project. So I'm doing something with all the mentorship that I'm getting. It's basically making use of the mentorship and the advice that you're getting. Um, and yeah, it's based on the SDGs. It's very, very closely related.
Great. Okay. That's good. I'll look forward to finding out more about that. In terms of what's next for you, I mean, there's obviously you're exploring a lot of stuff. There's a common
Yeah.
theme, you obviously want to make a difference. You obviously want to make every day count. You obviously want to make the world a better place than when you arrived. That's clear. But in terms of how you get there, I mean, what's next on the list? Which avenues have you yet to explore? Which things would you like to develop? What's your plan?
Well, there's many things that I think, like I'm thinking of, like, in terms of academic stuff and also like professionally. But honestly, one thing that's on my mind and I really want to get done with it in the near future is organizing my own TEDx.
Mhm.
Because I also got advice from my mentor on this. And I personally think as well, after I attended the TED Talk, I honestly realized that I would be able to organize one. With my connections, I would get speakers pretty easily.
Yeah.
And with my other connections, I'd be getting sponsors pretty easily. And with my awesome resume, I'd be able to get a TEDx license, hopefully. So I want to organize a TEDx talk of my own. I don't have the topic yet, but that's not going to take too long.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that either. I mean, it's exactly as you say. You've got all the ingredients. Um, you mentioned earlier on about finding your passion. Now, that's something that in education, it's often missing, right? Because you've got,
Yeah.
as you said, this standardized model that doesn't allow people to. It's like we start off learning through play, as very young kids, which is great. We're experimenting, we're learning about ourselves, and then it's like, oh, you got to stop. You can't do that anymore. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're older and you're growing up. You've got to do things the serious way, and we just lose all of that experimentation and
Yes.
creativity and freedom and all of that. So it's quite difficult in the standard system to find your passion. What I'm interested in is it seems like you've already found it, or at least you're well on the way to understanding it. With all those different things you're doing, how would you explain, how would you describe what your passion is to somebody? And for people out there that might not be in a Socratic experience environment, what advice would you give on helping them find out who they are in spite of the education context they might be in?
Honestly, I found again, I was in this school for a month. It has changed me, yes, okay, probably. But I found my passion at 10. So let's just be honest, that was with other schools. And I kept changing schools for a very long time because I kept on moving for a very long time. So I honestly would describe my passion, as I always say, to empowering those around me and empowering people careless of their race, their religion, the caste, or the creed. And when I say empowering is to help them find their passions that leads to other empowerment. So it's pretty much like a chain that goes on, like food chains, but not food chains. So, and what I'd like to say to other children, and this is a little bit of my TED Talk script right here, it is, see, I feel like in order to find your true potential, you need two things. You need exploration and you need exposure. Exploration is pretty self-explanatory here, okay? And exposure is exposure to different professions, exposure to different cultures, and most importantly, exposure to different real life situations. These situations that encourage or at times even require you to use different life skills. skills like empathy, critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. And that, my friend, is how you will be able to find your true potential. And that's how I found it. And that's how many people find it, because these things is what leads to you finding your true self, and that's beneficial for all of us. Truly, that is.
Well, that is a lovely note to finish on there. It's inspirational stuff, and I'm glad to hear that you found yours. And of course, I think it's something that it refines itself, no, as we go through. I mean, people, I think, sometimes think that it's like one thing, like I'm going to be this or I'm going to do that. But there's certain callings that, I mean, I'm sure your passion will take many forms through its life. It's the same core thing, you know, empowering others, but it's going to manifest itself in different ways, you know, activism and speaking, and perhaps working with the UN later, perhaps
yes.
not. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that develops, but at least there's hope that, you know, these things we can control, right? I mean, even if we're in a school that doesn't support this, we can get out there, right? We have the internet. We can talk to people. We can listen to people. We can find stuff out. Maybe difficult to experience certain things without a bit of support, but at least there's a pathway, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Raheen. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you again, to talk to you, and just to find out. I'm going to dig into your school as well, and I'm super curious now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Mark. It's always amazing meeting you, though this is literally the second time we're meeting. But let's keep this going.
Yes, absolutely. And I need to, I think the more we talk, my hope is that you'll develop a Scottish accent, because it really opens doors in the world, you know?
it really does. And I'd love that.
Let's work on that then. Okay. Thanks a lot, Raheen. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.